it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before.
She mirrored the president's positive tone in his remarks, at least publicly, saying in part, China and the United States both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. We should be partners, not rivals. As doors closed for negotiations, however, the tone of China's leader reportedly shifted, with Xi Jinping offering a stern warning about the U.S. relationship with Taiwan. In a readout posted online, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Taiwan is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. And if it is not handled, quote, properly, it would lead to clashes and even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. The White House also has a list of requests from this trip. The president is expected to push for U.S. priorities like China's assistance in pressuring its strategic ally Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump brought a large group of U.S. business leaders who have been lobbying for measures that would further open the Chinese market. Among them is chip leader NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. Both he and Elon Musk praised the first day's meeting. And Willie, the question here is, and especially given what Xi Jinping said, are the goals aligned? And what is going on around these meetings?
Yeah, especially on Taiwan. It's pretty extraordinary. Yeah. Those reports from inside the room. Richard Haas, obviously, there's a lot to dig into. Let's start with the president's remarks there at the top. You want to project a friendly tone, obviously, right? We're at a summit meeting. We would mark the contrast in the tone he takes with our allies, with European leaders, for example, in public. But let's talk about Taiwan, which is, we're getting these reports, as you predicted yesterday, that behind closed doors, President Xi is saying, back off your support for Taiwan. Stop the weapons and the arms support that you've been given, or at least curtail that a little bit. Or else, he said, there will be clashes and conflicts. How should a United States president respond to that?
Well, look, for Xi Jinping, Taiwan is his legacy. So what he put on the table has the advantage of being true. This is his priority, not just for the summit, but for his entire tenure as president of China. He's in his third term. My guess is, health permitting, he'll have a fourth term, and who knows what beyond that. He wants to accomplish a major change in Taiwan's status. He put it on the table, literally and figuratively. My guess is, Willie, that he wants to take Donald Trump's pulse. He wants to explore exactly how deep is Donald Trump's commitment to Taiwan. There's the question of arms. There's rhetorical issues. We've historically not supported Taiwan's independence. Can he get us to say now we oppose Taiwan's independence? What he's trying to do is raise questions in Taiwan's mind and Japan's mind and everybody else about the strength of the American defense of Taiwan. And what he's hoping, therefore, it undermines confidence in Taiwan, and it allows the mainland to gain greater control over it. So he's putting it on the table. And I think for the Chinese, the single biggest priority of the summit is to get a better sense of, given Iran, given everything else, what is Donald Trump prepared to do about Taiwan? That's what they want to come away with.
Connecting stories we've been talking about for more than 4 years now, the war in Ukraine. I think you and others have said, you know who's watching the war in Ukraine closely? China. Mm-hmm. How will the United States respond? How directly and heavily will it favor Ukraine and support Ukraine in the war? The answer is not very much. What does China see in Ukraine that it may be using as leverage today?
Well, what they like about Ukraine is the United States never got involved directly militarily. Even under the Biden administration, we helped Ukraine, but we never put troops on the ground. The biggest reason, I would argue, for the Chinese nuclear buildup, China right now, people don't pay attention to it, is the fastest growing nuclear arsenal in the world. They're thinking if they can have a really big nuclear arsenal, Willie, on the scale of, say, what Russia has, then the United States' approach to Taiwan might parallel our approach to Ukraine. We won't get directly involved. They've been helping Ukraine in lots of ways with technology and so forth. The only thing is, recently, Russia is not winning in Ukraine.
Right.
So I actually think Ukraine's a mixed thing for China. And what it also shows, if you're Xi Jinping and you go to bed at night, you think about, hey, Vladimir Putin was so confident his military would perform well in Ukraine. Not so much. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping's been purging generals left and right. So the question is, how confident is he that this unbattle-tested military, which hasn't gone to war since the late 70s against Vietnam, how confident is he if he were to go to war? So I think actually the fact that Russia's had real problems in Ukraine militarily might be a little bit sobering for him. So there's lots of conflicting things, but still the priority for him is Taiwan first, second, third. That's what really matters here. And I don't know if he's looking for a breakthrough, but he clearly wants to get a better sense of what he can expect. And that'll be the most important exchange of the summit.
Well, okay. So, David Ignatius, just back to the stern warning that the Chinese have given to President Trump, that the leader has, saying Taiwan is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. I mean, China seems to have put the cards on the table. I wonder what the consequences of that would be, if you could explain that. And then ultimately, how can China help with the Strait of Hormuz? Is that the ultimate exchange here?
So Xi has definitely put his marker down on the table by raising Taiwan forcefully in the first direct meeting of the summit, saying that mishandling of it could lead to an extremely dangerous situation. That's strong rhetoric for superpowers. But it's not likely that by the end of this summit we'll see any change in the status quo. Again, he's put down the marker. He's signaled the United States. He's trying to frame future discussions of Taiwan. Let's remember that there's likely to be a second summit this year, probably in the U.S. between these two. So maybe he's hoping to kind of do a little salami tactics, as we say, a little bit each time. But I'd be surprised if there are any major changes in U.S. Policy statements. To me, the summit really announces Xi's achievement of one Chinese dream, which is to see parity between these two countries. The pomp, the power of the welcome that was given to President Trump as he arrived last night, the extraordinary Trumpian flattery, the greatest summit ever. You're a great leader. I mean, what could the Chinese leader like to hear more than that? If there's any person in the world who likes to be flattered more than Donald Trump, it's probably Xi Jinping, and he got a lot of that flattery. But he also got a display that these are the two countries in the world that matter. So we sometimes say this is the G2. So I think that's another important summit. A final thing I'd say is that Trump brought along with him an array of the people who symbolize where America really is still very strong. We're having our difficulties in Iran, winning that war, all kinds of other troubles that we talk about on this show every day. But to have Elon Musk, Tim Cook, Jensen Huang, the chip maker, all arriving with the president, the people who truly dominate these technologies that China hopes to become a key player in. I thought that was a sensible thing for President Trump to do. They seem to be all smiles after today's meetings, wonderful, gushing about all the good things that have happened. So I think that's another bottom line for the summit. The United States is still very strong economically, and China would like to still be in the slipstream of American economic power for as long as it can.
Yeah, Steve Rattner, just looking at the live images of this state banquet at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, we saw familiar faces. Elon Musk is there. Tim Cook is there as we wait for Presidents Trump and Xi to enter the hall there. But also leaders of BlackRock and Goldman and Citi. I mean, it crosses American industry. What is the goal of those leaders here? Is it simply to push to open the Chinese markets to their business?
Of the business leaders?
Yeah.
I mean, they're there because they want to sell stuff to China. And I think Trump has recognized that some of the non-economic issues that are on the table that Richard and David were just talking about are not going to get resolved. And so I think if he wants a takeaway from this meeting, a lot of it could be on the commercial side. It's interesting that on the chip side, on the NVIDIA side, you know, the president did authorize the sale of what are called the H200 chips to China, and he extracted a tax for the U.S. government. You know, he always has to have a little something for agreeing to anything. But the Chinese haven't been buying them. The Chinese have been deciding, you know, our chips aren't so bad, and we have power, which is an important thing that we have less of. And so they haven't been buying much. There will probably be a big sale of Boeing planes because the Chinese don't know how to make yet commercial airliners. They're close to developing one, but it will not be a Boeing plane. So they'll probably sell some planes. But then remember also that in the past, in Trump 1.0, there were all kinds of deals around things like soybeans that the Chinese never lived up to. The Chinese are not like really big on living up to agreements unless it's in their interest. But if I could go back to Taiwan for just 1 second, because just to state at least me the obvious, but Richard and David may or may not agree, Taiwan is all about chips. And the whole reason why I think we care about Taiwan is because of the chips. And they produce 92%.
Sorry, Steve, here comes President Trump and President Xi entering the hall.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Taiwan produces 92% of the world's high-end chips. And so it becomes pretty existential for the world and for us to have anything happen to that chip supply. Taiwan really is the Saudi Arabia of the 2026 era.
Can I say one thing about that, though? Because the U.S. commitment to Taiwan predated chips. Taiwan is the unfinished business of the Chinese Civil War, which is why it's so important to the Chinese and to Xi Jinping. But for us, even though Taiwan is not, quote unquote, an independent country, we have commitments to it under the Taiwan Relations Act. Our relationship with Japan and other countries in many ways is premised on the idea that the United States will stand there on behalf of Taiwan.